and welcome to another episode of Mindful Drawing. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you're enjoying these practices. You can look back through the archive and grab any one at random and just see where it might take you. But today, we're going to keep it nice and simple and just track our mark along as we take our hand and our pen or pencil for a little walk across this snowy field of our paper. We had a nice little blizzard here on the East Coast, and it's always fun to wake up in the morning and just see the blanket of new expression from the snow as it melds some of the hard angles of our urban environment and smooths out the landscape, providing this fresh canvas, soon to be marked by people, dogs, cars, and everything else that just comes down for a moment and leaves a little trace of its trajectory. I find this as a nice analogy and connection into the act of drawing, and as a way to use this exercise in mindful practice to both explore and release into that open space of a snowy field. Grab something that you can draw smoothly with a good flow, a pen or pencil, and a nice pad of paper or your sketchbook, and let's draw together. Couldn't decide what to draw with, so I have a bunch of things here. I'll just pick something up and see how it moves for this. But it was a fun weekend with all the snow here on the East Coast. And it made me, think when you get out early after it snows at night, it's always fun to kind of walk around in that fresh snow or the empty field and the connection to the page. And maybe today for drawing, we'll just go for a little walk with our pen or pencil. I think to start, we'll take a piece of scrap or just a corner of the page in the sketchbook and look for what kind of shape or mark or movement might become your step, right? The thing that you use to meander the page. And that could be a line or a squiggle, something just moving around. I think for me, I'm going to look into kind of making just some dots, little footprints, moving along, starting to test out with the hand, what feels good to make a mark, what gives you some opportunity for control or adjustment to the awareness of your speed and your action. They could be individual shapes, smooth loops, or perhaps you like things a little more geometric. Just take a few moments to play around and see what feels nice. Strange shapes. As I maneuver my hand, I'm kind of enjoying the little swirl of the small dots, creating a little puddle there of ink or graphite, depending on what you're using. And after exploring a few shapes, just taking a moment to connect them with our awareness in the moment before we jump into the longer exercise. Taking a breath in, and then as it flows out naturally through the weight of your chest and lungs and diaphragm, just begin to move that pen or pencil around in the mark you've chosen. No need to control its speed or guide it. Just see how it begins aligning with that natural rhythm of your breath as you breathe in and let the body release the air along with the motion. And these warm-ups or enterings guide us into the space, give us a chance for some of the perhaps wild or chaotic or settling energy to let its way out here on a piece of paper and reach a state of balance and arriving with our motion. So whenever you feel ready, you can flip to a new page or put aside the scrap paper and start with our blank field of snow, this great emptiness kind of covering and smoothing out of things in the page. And with a good breath in and aligning the spine, the neck, the head, the shoulders, just kind of making sure everything's in a nice, even, comfortable place. We can begin to enter by taking that mark, preparing with a breath, and just beginning to let it form on the out breath. And if you're working with kind of a dense, small dot, as I am here, the several rotations at your natural breathing rhythm, just leaking out some of that medium onto the page. And when each breath relocating a slight step in the series as we begin to mark and change this open surface of whatever paper we're working on. And as we begin to develop several iterations of this mark, a trajectory starts to form, and see if you can just let that pen or pencil follow in relatively even steps, just like the breaths in and the breaths out, allowing it to establish an equilibrium or rhythm there on the page. Perhaps it moves in a very straight line, begins to wander and wiggle a little bit, allowing any concern or intention behind the direction to fade into the space of making each mark. That breathing in and repositioning, just going where it feels right at that moment. And if you start to reach the edge of the page, perhaps your walk just bounces off or gradually turns to re-enter that blank space of the paper. And depending on how you're drawing this mark, it's something that's a smoother shape, just a single disc or circle, any kind of geometry, and you really bring it into alignment with that breath out, even with these heavier dots. Perhaps we do a bit of breathing exercise and take a deep breath in, find the position, and let it out for one rotation before beginning to fill the space of the dot or move to the next cycle. And I notice that I began to change the size that I was working with. You may find that awareness as we go deeper into the connection between the natural rhythms of our body with the breath and this action of drawing, making visual expression outward, coming into an alignment, some direct feedback and communication between our presence here and what begins to manifest on the page. And after several moments of that deeper breathing, bringing higher intensities of oxygen into the lungs, into the bloodstream, can bring with it some energizing feelings as well as a relaxation to the muscles, to the joints, a focusing to the mind, the eyes, as we enter into each moment of expression onto the page. And we can let our breath fall back a bit into the background, having stabilized it, connected with it. And now, detaching from it as our guide, bringing the attention to other connections here, the texture of the paper as it flows up through some mechanical instrument into the nerve endings of the fingertips, the pressure sensors, the muscles that we're guiding to maneuver the pen or pencil into position and around through the mark. Spending a few moments there, feeling the pressure on the thumb, the index finger, depending on how you hold your pen or pencil, the middle or the ring finger. Where does the pressure dig in? Where does it slip? Can we find a firm and supple grip? Something that guides the pen or pencil, but also allows it to communicate back through our senses. Being aware of how the medium influences the way we make a drawing or make an expression here on the page. Something we can bring into our action throughout the day in writing or doodling or drawing, just to spend a few moments with the breath and with the connection to those finer sensory elements. And as we're wandering on this walk, positioning new, tracking a trajectory in each moment, starting to feel further up through the hand and the arm as the fingers and wrist maybe repositioning to the new location. As the new location may modify the comfort or discomfort that we could feel in the position, as our arm may extend different from our shoulder, and being here, present with each mark, detached from its previous iteration, unaware perhaps a bit of its next position, letting whatever our eyes guide, or if you choose, close the eyes, and whatever our hand and fingertips guide as the next possible motion. Perhaps taking a few moments to either close or just let the eyes lose a bit of focus to perhaps drift around the page, drift around the space, keeping just enough attention to know where you are, but separating a bit from any feeling of trying to maneuver or guide the drawing. Letting this act of walking, this repetitive, nearly automatic motion that we go through every day, transposed here to our fingertips, take us around on a little journey and give our mind some time to quiet, perhaps to space out just a bit here, to open to what's around us. To bring some of that attention to the ears. Perhaps the sound of the breath is very prominent. If you're in a quiet space, begin to notice again where that breathing has settled in. And at first, just listening into it. Does it sound fast or slow? Does it still rise and fall with the motion of the hand, or has it drifted off to its own rhythm? Do you find the breaths deep or shallow, somewhere in between? Just observing for a moment where we might find ourselves in a relaxed state. And as the technique has taken hold strongly, that re-listening to our breath, you begin to use it as a mechanism for counting. On the out breath, tracking the number of dots or circles or shapes that form. 1, 2, 3, 4. Continuing to track with a new count on the in-breath, or allowing that as a space, quiet and recalibration. And then tracking out again. 1, 2, 3. And whatever your rhythm may be, not to influence it too much, but just to start the internal dialogue for a few moments of counting the breath's pacing with our action drawing. I observe that I begin to pulse my breath when I connect it with the counting. The pulse out to each number, the gradual relenting of the pressure between each number. Perhaps aligning with the reposition of the hand in the next step in our little walk. And I imagine by now the page has begun to establish quite a few marks and make many paths through this snowy space, and feel free for the next several moments and minutes to continue on this walking journey, or you're in a nice open and relaxed and receptive state to the page, taking it in with your eyes and engaging it perhaps on another technique, another mechanism. Maybe that's beginning to extend a line that can wander around the footsteps, explore the space they've created, perhaps track along those marks ahead of us in the snow, wondering what path the previous journey took, jumping between them or smoothly following along, just to take some time with our state of lightness, openness, and the patterns that we may have created here as an opportunity to explore. As I wander through this field, I find myself drawn or compelled or visually interested in beginning to find new connections between the marks. And perhaps a round of connecting the dots in their local context. Or extending the marks, growing their size, or placing space in between them. Letting the eyes and fingers be the guide through the spaces created here on the page. Playing in the patterns in the snow. In the last few minutes we have here in this space, as you continue to draw, just have a little bit of time to have fun here with whatever's emerged on the page, see what comes out. We can take a few moments in that to at least share in a bit of gratitude or appreciation for the time that we may have to explore and practice these moments of meditation here through drawing, perhaps throughout the day, at times to still the mind and bring some attention internally to where you are and what you might be focusing on. To begin to develop techniques through the breathing, through the motion and awareness of the body and the senses, and through this creative expression of drawing to connect inward, and perhaps, if we're lucky, from time to time, find something expressed outward that is visually intriguing, pleasing, or even just serves to release some of the tension of the day or the stress of a meeting with a bit of creative outflow. And I always know it's time to begin to wrap it up when I feel like I could just keep going and needing to finish the drawing. And you're welcome to do that if you are so inclined. But then I would spend all day here, and the exercise has brought me to a nice place. I hope it has brought you as well into some space of relaxation. Enjoy the nice sunny day out there if you're in New York City. A nice little walk there for the mind, for our internal landscape to be mapped with our breath and with the connection to our senses and the body, and hopefully to create something a little bit fun to explore with our eyes and our hands that has some creative expression for us to start our day or wind down the evening. You can always tap into the techniques learned in these exercises anytime throughout the day when you feel a need to center, to connect with your breath, and just to find that space of open and creative thinking as you take a little walk, even when you can't get outside to take that walk. Enjoy the sunshine, have a great day, and draw well. Thank you.